So this is a 50mm cine lens. This is a 50mm STM lens, both made by Canon. The 50mm cine lens is £4 grand. The 50mm STM lens is 100 quid. Is there really that much of a difference in the quality? That's what we're here to find out. Let's go. Oh my god.
Is it good?
Okay, so what's the difference on the outside of the lens? On the cine lens, we have these etchers on the side of the lens. What are those for, you're thinking? Well, I know exactly what those are for. They are for focus pullers. So in cinema, you actually have to have somebody pull focus on these lenses manually because these lenses do not have autofocus. Pretty strange for such an expensive lens, right? I know. Also on the cine lens, we have your T-stops. Now, cine lenses don't have f-stops, they have T-stops. A little bit different, not too much. This lens is a T1.3 minimum. Now, this lens is an f1.8. So T-stops are numbered just a little bit differently. T1.3 is the equivalent to around f1.2, f1.1. So there's a couple more differences on the outside of this lens. It doesn't have a thread on the inside, so you can't put an ND filter on it. Very different to the one that we're using right now that has a variable ND. Why are you taking photos with this thing? Like, this is not a photographer's lens. Another win for the cinema lens is that it just looks beefy as f. So the 50mm STM, to look at it, it's not too much, but it's not about what's on the outside that counts, it's what's on the inside. This thing has autofocus, and it's just extremely small. And it also has these filter threads on the end of the lens so that you can actually put circular polarizers and ND filters on it, unlike the cinema lens. So it does actually give you a little bit more functionality. So these lenses actually share a couple of things in common. They're both EF mounts and they both are lenses. And that's about it. A flat surface, anything that's flat automatically becomes a table. If it's flat, it's a table. Move that out of the way. Okay, so we've just finished filming the sample test. We're going to go into the studio now and take a look at whether or not you can actually see a difference between a £4,000 cinema lens or 100 quid to start a beginner lens that anybody can pick up. Let's go take a look. Ah, rock! That's nice. I can't even explain it, that's just... I want to buy it.
Steal it. They'll never know.
Okay, so now we're back in the studio and I think it's time we take a look at some of the footage and compare it and see whether or not we can actually see a difference between the £4,000 lens and a very, very beginner lens. Is much more surprising than I thought it was. Just to make it as fair as possible, even with exactly the same settings, aperture, ISO and shutter speed. So the only differences you are seeing right now is the quality of the glass. Okay, so there's a few differences I want to make very clear during this, is that if you feed the cinema lens a professional setup with controlled lighting and people on set to control your focus, then the cinema lens is every single time gonna beat that 50mm beginner lens. Every time, easy. All the footage was shot in 8K all-eye on the R5. Okay, so if you take a look at lens sharpness zoomed in at 200%, you can easily tell that the cinema lens is much sharper. Sometimes it is very close and hard to notice. Bear in mind we are zooming in 200%. How often are you going to be doing that on regular movies or YouTube videos? Not a lot. So who are each of these lenses for, just taking a look at this footage? The cinema lens, give it controlled environments, give it a professional setup, give it somebody to pull focus, give it just controlled lighting all over, and it is going to be an absolute monster. But you give the other 50mm lens a run and gun situation where you have natural lighting, you need that autofocus, that lens is going to come out on top every single time. So both of these lenses have their pros and cons. Don't just think because it's a cinema lens that it's just going to be the best lens on the market for what you want, because it's all situational. So on both of these lenses, the blurry background, the bokeh, is much smoother on the cinema lens than it is on the regular 50mm. It just gives that blurry background, that cinematic feel. Obviously, it should do, it's a cinema lens. I don't know if you can tell that difference, but personally, I feel that the bokeh is just much smoother and it rolls off much more naturally. Okay, so with the bokeh roll off in the cinema lens, it's much less noticeable when you lose focus or when you miss focus on this lens, because it just it's so smooth that when you're in focus or out of focus just a tiny bit, you can't really tell. Okay, so what's the colour accuracy like on both of these lenses? Personally, from what I can see in the footage, it seems that the 50mm 100-pound lens is a bit more vibrant, a bit more punchy colours than the cinema lens, whereas the cinema lens tends to keep all those colours nice and natural. You can see this in the fence on the left-hand side and the right-hand side, and the pink writing on the wall in the bottom left. Okay, can we just add one quick section about the functionality on both of these lenses? I can now say that I have an all-new respect for people that pull focus on the cinema lenses, because it is not easy on your own. That autofocus in that 50mm lens is absolutely priceless. I would pay all of the money for autofocus. Anyway, back to the regular video. Personally, to me, I think the 50mm 100-pound lens looks a little bit more punchy in terms of colours. Now, and that is not necessarily a good thing. It's a good thing for YouTubers like me and you. It's not a good thing for cinematographers and people who are making professional movies. Okay, so let's just get down to brass tacks. Let's get down to the beans and the gravy. Personally, I couldn't see that much of a difference. Bear in mind, we were shooting this in natural daylight, you know, run and gun situation, which this lens is not made for. Let me know down in the comments if you could see a difference. Oh, days. Out. Go on. Personally, I don't think I'm going to be picking one of these up too soon. I think I'm probably going to stop off and get the 50mm STM for now, but it's definitely something I want. If you turn up on a set with a lens like this, your client is immediately going to turn around to you and say, "Can we pay you more?" Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but still, it's a pretty impressive looking lens. Nobody would know what the hell it even meant just looking at it. They would just think you know your shit. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, do all the stuff that you already love to do. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.